3. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. If you, all of you should have a handout. It looks like this. If you don't have one of these and you want one, raise your hand up real high. And I think Garrett's ready to rock and roll. Pastor Garrett will find you. So if you want one, you can raise your hand up and Garrett will find you. But I think we're all caught up here. We're Ecclesiastes starting chapter 3, verses 1 through 8 tonight. And as you guys are turning your Bibles, let me ask you, how many of you had somebody in your family growing up that was just always made you late? Just always. And it could be you. You don't have to tell anybody. How many of you have that person in your family right now in your life? Okay. How many of you are that person? Some of you are honest. Okay, great. It's growing up, I had a couple people in my family who were that way. One of my sisters is that way still today. Mom, if you're watching, I love you, but Mom is that way, whether she realizes it or not, I don't know. But I remember so many times as a kid, we'd be rushing out the door to go to church or go to school or wherever we were headed. And, Mom would be rushing around the house and getting herself ready. And you got to go, we got to go, we got to go. And so all us kids would rush out. And no kidding, that the car would be full of us kids, me and my three sisters. And where's Mom? Mom is rushing us. Mom is pushing us out the door. We got to go, we got to go. Time, we're all in the car. All the kids are waiting. Even my sister that's always late. We dragged her out. We got her in the car. Where's our mother? I don't know. I don't know how many times she took us somewhere. And I'll be 5 minutes. And she'd drive us somewhere. Just stay in the car. I got to go in and talk to somebody. I got to drop this off. I'll be 5 minutes. 3 hours later, we got all the doors and windows open. We're all dying from the summer heat. Just trying to survive, just drenched in so we're so abused is what I'm getting at. It's the next day. We spend the night in the parking lot. It seems like there's some people that just grapple with the concept of time. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're here tonight because the Lord wants you to hear this sermon. I don't know. Time is the most limited resource that the Lord gives us. It's the most valuable resource that the Lord gives us. And the older I get, the more I appreciate that. And in some ways, as I look at where we are in the book of Ecclesiastes, I think that this could possibly be one of the most important sermons that if we allow it to, this is one of the most important sermons that we could hear in a really long time, especially for people who are a little younger. If you grapple with this, with what we're working through in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and what we're going to touch on tonight, Solomon is going to begin to talk about the dynamic of time, the importance of time, and how it plays out in our lives, and how important it is for us to understand the time that we're in. He calls it a season, that there is a season, there is a time for everything. And my friends, if you will really grapple with this, if you will really focus in on this in your life, it will change everything. How you see your life, how you approach your work and your family, your relationship with Jesus. Because really, everything's in light of eternity. We get to that next in the next passage. This time. Time. Solomon here reveals to us some wisdom that he's gleaned throughout his life. And as he looks back and reflects over his life and all the things that he's accomplished, he realizes that there is great value, that it is vital for us, and there is great value in the ability to discern the season of life that you're in, that everything, there is a time for everything, a season for everything, and that we ought to work diligently to discern the season we're in. And that it changes how we approach our day-to-day lives. My friends, this sermon could have one of the greatest practical impacts on your life if you really dig in. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. Here's how Solomon puts it. He says, "For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven." Who watched my video I shared on Facebook today? Okay, a couple of you. Did you see what it has to do with Ecclesiastes chapter 3? So I shared a song on Facebook. You can go to my page and watch it if you'd like. I don't make any money on it. But that whole song it's almost verbatim out of the book of Ecclesiastes. It's almost verbatim this passage. The whole song comes, only a few words are not quotes from Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. You can go back and you can watch that later. Don't watch it while I'm preaching. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. And here Solomon will now give us some examples. And he gives us 14 pairs. There's 14 things that he lists. And these pairs are dichotomies. So he's going to list 14 pairs of things that are complete opposites. And as he does, he's showing us that in everything that we experience in life, there's a time for that. There's a time to go through it. What I want to do is I'm going to go through each one. I'm going to explain some of the more difficult ones so that we're all on the same page. And then I just want to talk to you about your season and how I think we ought to approach the season of life that we're in and beyond. So here's verse 2. Here he begins to give us some examples of what he's talking about. He says there's a time to be born and a time to die. There's a time to plant and a time to pluck up what has been planted. There's a time to kill and a time to heal. And I want to be clear, this passage does not give you license to go eliminate a few folks in your life that you got that list. Don't do that. That's not what Solomon's talking about. A really good example here is, you guys know I raise chickens. And I had this rooster that I thought was going to be my next main rooster. His dad's name is Stanley. This is a couple years ago. Stanley's my main man. I love Stanley. He's awesome. But I thought, boy, he's getting old. I'm going to have to replace him. So I let one of his sons live. I forget his name. That's how unimportant he was. But this rooster was raising up, and Stanley decided that the pen is only big enough for one rooster. And so I was raising his son. I was getting him ready to take over the flock, and Stanley just beat the tar out of him one day. And I walked out there, and the poor thing, I looked at him, and I had to make a decision. Is this guy worth saving? Is it time to heal? Or is it time to grill, is my version of it. Is it time to heal, or is it time for a barbecue? And I thought, hey, I'm hungry. So that poor guy, I wish you guys could see, he's beat up. So I got my air rifle. I need to make the story quick. I was going to tell you this whole story, but I will. So I got my air rifle, and I thought, this is enough. I didn't think I needed like a shotgun or something. So I went out, pumped this thing up as high as it would go, full pressure, put the pellet in, and I put it right up against him because he could barely move, the poor thing. Pulled the trigger. Well, that didn't kill him. And so he just flipped out when I shot him. He's running around the pen. Lane was little, and it was Eli. Eli was little. He was standing there with me. He's like, Dad! And there's just blood going everywhere. It's like, son, go in. And so it was a disaster. I had to take matters into my own hands, literally. And so, poor guy. All that to say, it was a time to kill. Do you see? That was not time to heal. So this is not talking about people necessarily, but there is a time to heal. There's a time to kill. So when you get to verse 3, that's what he's talking about there. There's a time to break down. There's a time to build up. There's a time to weep, and there's a time to laugh. There's a time to mourn, and there's a time to dance. There's a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones. This is probably in reference to the Old Testament practice. And if you go to 2 Kings chapter 3, verses 19 through 25, you'll see an example of this. When a nation would go to war against another nation to basically ruin the land, they would just throw a bunch of rocks onto it. And so they would just heap rocks onto lands, onto farms, and it would just ruin the ability for the people to farm the land. So that's probably what they're talking about when it says a time to gather stones, and a time to cast away stones would be the time to remove the stones so you could till the land, farm the land. That's probably what it's referring to there. There's a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. I thought of 2020. There's a time for 6 feet of distance. I'm just kidding. I don't want to go back there. But I did think of that. I highlighted that in 2020. It's like, this is what they were preparing us for this. There's a time for basically he's saying there's a time for relationships with individuals, and sometimes there's a time to break those relationships. There's a time to seek, and there's a time to lose. There's a time to tear, and a time to sow. This is probably in reference to the Old Testament, method of tearing their garments when they were in grief. So you can think of King David when his son died, his first son from Bathsheba. When he died, he tore his robe. You can think of Job, tore his robe when all of his kids, he got the news that all of his kids died, so that they would tear. There's a time for tearing, grieving, and a time to sow. There's a time to keep silent and a time to speak. There's a time to love, and there's a time to hate. There's a time for war and a time for peace. And you say, Lance, I didn't think Christians should hate. My friends, we hate injustice. We hate sin. We hate abuse. And when your loved one is a victim of injustice or abuse, doesn't that hate well up in you? There's a time. There's a time for hate. Maybe not a person, but the injustice, the abuse, the act. Do you see where he's coming from there? There's a time. There's a time for everything. There's a season for everything. I want to give you just a few practical insights tonight. Again, my friends, if you allow these things, if you grapple with this reality of life and these things that we'll be talking about tonight, I do believe that it could possibly change the rest of your life as you move through it, how you approach your life. I think the first thing as we look at what Solomon is laying out here for us, one of the most important things that we can do is recognize what season we're in. As you examine your life, as you go through your day-to-day, I think one of the most important things for you as an individual is to simply recognize what season you are in right now. I think it's a very valuable skill. I think it is a skill you can learn and get better at throughout season, to discern, to understand what's going on around you and where the Lord is leading you. I believe that one of the greatest factors of success in life is the ability to recognize what season you are in. Because far too often, we're looking at a season we want to be in. We're looking at where we wish we would be, and we ignore and we miss out on everything that's happening around us. And if you want to be successful in your relationships, you want to be successful in your career, you want to be successful with your finances and all your marriage, with your children, it's vital that you understand where you're at right now. What season are you in? So often we're just longing for something else. Well, I can't wait till my kids get older. I'm so tired of having to change diapers. Now, I can't wait till, they move out of the house. Or I can't wait till this or this changes in my marriage. I can't wait till, this changes in my career. And we're looking ahead, or we're looking to just some idea that we have of our lives, and we miss what's right in front of us. We miss that time with our kids when they're little because we're waiting for something else. We miss that friendship in that season of life because we're waiting for something else. We miss that opportunity in our career because we're longing for something else. It's so important for you to just take a step back and examine your life and recognize what season you're in. Face reality. Your kids are little, okay. Enjoy it. Spend time with them. Your marriage is growing. Awesome. Enjoy it. You're getting started in your career. Calm down. Enjoy it. You're in school. You're in training. Awesome. Embrace it. Enjoy it. Focus on the season you have right now. Face the reality. Recognize it. And then I believe that we ought to make the most of where we are so we're ready when the next season comes. If you can face the reality of your life, like this, okay, this is my season. This is just the season the Lord has me in now. And you go all in. Think about how prepared you're going to be when the next season comes. If you're always looking for something else, you're going to miss out on what the Lord has for you and what he's working in you now. And then when the new season comes, you're going to look back and say, boy, I wish I could have those years back. How many parents get to the end of their lives and they say, boy, I wish I could have my kids back when they were little. I wish I could have more time at home with them. So many times parents are just like, boy, I wish I could get out of the house. Stop it. It's over in a flash. It's not just with kids, it's with every season of life, but that's just such an easy thing for us to understand. Remember when I was working at the ophthalmologist's clinic, I can't even say the word anymore, but before I was a pastor, I worked for several years in ophthalmology and optometry. That's what I did in the Army. And so when I got out of the Army, I worked for an ophthalmologist, and I was his assistant. And those 2 years I worked for him, it was a great clinic full of awesome people, and I just could not wait to get out of there. It was a great job for me. And, it allowed me to go to school. I was going to Evangel at the time. I knew I wanted to be in ministry. I was so excited. I was preparing, and I was just looking at the next season. I was like, Lord, I want to be a pastor right now. Make me a pastor right now. Why am I not a pastor yet? Like you called me yesterday. Come on, what's going on? I was ready. Yeah, I was 27 years old. I was just eager. And I didn't understand, why does the Lord have me here? I don't want to do this job. I was not passionate about that job. My poor bosses, they knew that. I think I approached the job with that lack of passion, I feel bad for them. I do wish I could go back those 2 years and work harder for them. I wish I could. And I think that there's some things I could have learned that I missed out on because I was just so focused on what I wanted to happen next. And I just failed to embrace where I was. I was unhappy with my home life. I was unhappy with my work life. I was just so ready to be done with school, even though I just started. And I was like, man, I just want to be a pastor. I remember those days. I'm so thankful that the Lord didn't make me a pastor then. You all would not have wanted me to be your pastor then. My friends, you have to embrace your season. Calm down. There's a season for everything. I think one of the greatest tragedies in life is that we often fail to appreciate the season we're in. Enjoy it. Solomon will say throughout this book that one of the greatest pleasures in life, one of the greatest joys that the Lord gives us is to simply, we just talked about this last week, eat, drink, and enjoy the work of your hands. Just be content with where the Lord has you right now. I think it is one of the greatest tragedies that all of us will wrestle with in different ways, that you miss out on the season the Lord has you in right now. It's like when we're young, I just gave you an example here. When we're young, don't we all just long to be older? We long to have that freedom. When we're little kids, we just want to be a teenager, and we want to be able to drive. And once we can drive, boy, I just wish I was out of the house, and I just want to be in college. And when we're in college, boy, I just wish I could start my career. I wish I could get married. I wish I could have kids. I'm just so tired of this. Then you get married, you have kids, you're in your career. There's boy, I wish I could go back. So what's happening? When we're young, we want to be old. When we're old, we wish we were young. It's a tragedy. It's an embrace where you are right now. It's a gift. One day, you'll look back on it, and you'll wish you had appreciated it better. Something I've said to the staff here recently here at the church is, guys, I was like, guys, I think we're in the good old days right now. Like, these are the good old days. It's awesome, we got a great team. Church is so fun. Let's enjoy it. Something that I try to challenge people with to remember, I think it helps us keep a good perspective is, and you've heard me say this in other sermons, where you are right now is where you prayed to be 5 years ago. So be happy. Enjoy the season of life that you're in. Second thing that I think is really, so first you have to recognize your season. There is a time for everything. Just face the fact of where the Lord has you right now. That's key. Then, it's crucial to be able to realize when your season is changing. So here's the flip side of that coin. Don't get too comfortable. Yes, embrace the season you're in. Yes, it's awesome. Enjoy it. But it's going to change. One day you're not going to be in the season that you're in right now. Whether that be your family life, your career life, your spiritual life, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, whether you're ready to get out of this season or you're going to miss the season when it's over. Just know your season will change. I promise you. It's a guarantee. Your season will change. And to be able to realize when that season is changing, my friends, that's such a crucial skill. That's another part of this. So you're not caught off guard to see what the Lord is leading you into, to read the tea leaves, if you will, to see the season changing. It's vital. So here's some things that happen. When you stay in a season too long, you don't gain the strength that comes with transition. Here's some things that you need to look out for. Sometimes we get really comfortable. We enjoy the season. We don't want our kids to leave the house. Stay with me forever and ever and ever, right? It's like, I want this season to last forever. Or, you don't want your job to change, or you don't want your ministry to change, whatever it might be. And you're just holding on tight-fisted. You're white-knuckling this thing. It's like, I like this season. I don't want a new season. Your season will change. And when you don't hold your life with an open hand and allow the Lord to lead you from one to the next, when you keep yourself in one season too long, you do not grow the way the Lord needs you to grow. It stunts you. You become immature. You become weak physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, depending on what we're talking about. There's this epidemic in our culture that drives me crazy. This is something I pay attention to in regard to young men in our culture. There's a study in 2023 that showed that 1 in 5 men between 25 and 34 still lived with their parents. Between 25 and 34, 20% of them still live with their parents. Guys, that's not good. Even more of them are not married. Like there's this shift in our culture where instead of giving our young men responsibility, it's true also with young ladies, but it just affects them differently. I'm a man, so I focus in on the male dynamic, but our men are not being challenged to grow, and they hold on to their basement and video games as long as they possibly can. My friends, move out of your parents' basement. Stop it. Get a job. Work. Ladies, stop dating men that live in their parents' basement. What is wrong with you? I just want all of you to come ask me a couple questions before you go on a date with somebody. I will help you so much. There's some easy red flags to stay away from. It creates this dynamic. Now, it's even worse when you go on the other side of 24. Almost 60% of men in their early 20s still live at home with their parents. What is happening? Parents, part of that's on you. You have to let go and move into the new season. When your kids grow up and graduate high school, let them go. You've raised them. Turn them loose. It's not healthy for anyone when we hold on to a season too long. Again, you become stunted, immature, weak. You don't stretch yourself to grow in capacity and experience. So we don't want to stay in a season longer than the Lord wants us to. Again, this affects every dynamic. I'm not just talking about physically, but emotionally, in ministry, and in your career, in every aspect of life. When the Lord is challenging you to move into the next season, you need to go. But here's another issue that we also struggle with in various ways. This is the other side of this. When you move through a season too quickly, you don't gain the wisdom that's available to you. So if you stay in too long, you grow weak. If you go too quickly, you don't gain wisdom. You stay a fool, essentially. You stay shallow. You don't go deep in anything. And you're jumping from one thing to the next. My friends, if you move through a season faster than the Lord wants you to, you stay shallow. You don't mind the depths of that season for all the wisdom that the Lord would have for you. You aren't present in the moment. You won't be able to enjoy and process the realities of that season. Here's a really common example that I see all the time. If you look at how we grieve, how we mourn, both examples can happen, and they're both unhealthy. Some people will lose a loved one, and the rest of their life is just marked by mourning. And they never come out of that mourning, that grieving. And that's not healthy. It's not healthy. It's like they can barely get out of bed because their loved one has passed on. That's not a healthy way to go about grief. But it's also not healthy to wake up the next day and pretend like nothing happened. And when you move too quickly, in this example, through grief, you don't process the loss. You don't properly mourn. You don't allow yourself to understand the emotions and just all of the moving pieces that are going on inside of you. And so for some of us, we just want to move on to the next thing. For others of us, we have a hard time ever moving on to anything ever. Both extremes are unhealthy. There's a season for it. Embrace that season. Process that season. Mine all of the wisdom and lessons the Lord would have for you out of that season, and then move on to the next. It's time for the next chapter. My friends, some of you are being challenged by the Lord into a new season, and you know exactly what I'm talking about right now. And you've been holding tight, digging in your heels. And I think the Lord is challenging you. So, do you trust me? Follow me into this season. Here's what I would have to say to you. Here's the third thing I think is vital. Embrace your new season with as much passion as your previous season. And even before that, I would say you've recognized where you are right now. You've recognized your season. You've embraced this, where the Lord has you. Some of you just need to simply come to grips with where you are right now. Others of you, the Lord is moving you into the next, and you need to embrace that season with the passion that you had for the last one. Wherever you sit on this, the challenge is the same. Because if you hold too long onto this season of life, you'll miss out on what the Lord is doing right now. If you hold on too long to this season, you're missing out on what the Lord is doing, actively leading into your life right now. Don't miss out on that. He's bringing you to something new. Embrace it. Enjoy it. And here's what I see from where I sit. Every new season confronts us with the fear of the unknown, and at the same time challenges us to trust the Lord. So there's a confrontation and there's a challenge. It confronts us with fear because this new season is unknown, and this happens continually the rest of your life. Every new season, it's the same confrontation. You think to yourself, I've been serving the Lord for 40 years. I've been serving the Lord for 50 years. I've got this thing down. And then the Lord is like, new season. It's like, God, what's happening? Lord, what's going on here? Fear. And you're just confronted with fear. I went to the ocean last year, swimming with my boys and Sarah, and I'm not a huge water person. Just in general, I'm a great swimmer, phenomenal, but incredible. I'm just kidding, I'm not that great. But I can swim, I have no problem swimming. I just don't really care about it. I don't know what's wrong with me. So we're in the ocean, swimming, the boys love it, so I'm swimming around with them. and we're pressing out in the ocean. We're pressing out a little further, and we get to where, like, I'm barely touching. And then these waves come in, and I'm just treading water, hanging out with the boys, and it's taken me out a little bit. I look down, and I can't see the bottom. I have no idea what's happening, and now I just know that there's a load of sharks right beneath me. I'm just confident. I already got attacked by manatees. It's no joke, they came to the beach. I forgot to tell you guys about that. They came back. I'm not even going to talk about that. Same day, they found me. So I had this fear that just came into my heart. All of a sudden, I'm like, boys, we got to go back. It's not safe for you. Like, I'm just being a good dad. Come back to the beach, guys. I'm like, oh, dear God, doggy paddling all the way. It's terrifying. When you can't see what's beneath you, you don't know. The ocean's scary, all right? It's terrible. When you can't see and you can't touch, and it's a place you've never been, and you're used to touching and seeing, and you're comfortable, isn't it scary when the Lord's taking you out? New season. That fear comes to all of us every time the Lord brings us to a new season. The challenge is, do we trust in the Lord enough to follow? Worship team, if you want to help me. That's my question for you tonight. Do you trust in the Lord enough to go past where you can see? Do you really trust in the Lord enough to go past where you can touch? Some of you are actively going through this right now. The Lord's pulling you out of a season, a change of family dynamics, a change of career, a change of ministry. I have no idea what's going on with you right now. But some of you are at the edge of a new season, and it's terrifying, and you don't want to go. And I believe the Lord has you here tonight because He's challenging you to trust Him. Are you going to trust Him? Others of you have the opposite problem. You're longing for the next. And I think the challenge that's before you tonight is to recognize where you are and that the Lord has you here on purpose and that you need to mine the depths of this season and wring out every drop of what the Lord has for you right now. Don't miss out on that because you wish your life looked like something else. Get it all. Get everything that the Lord has for you tonight in this season. Would you stand with me? Go ahead and stand.